Okay, so for today's deep dive, our sources are all pointing us toward one thing: the European Union's new Artificial Intelligence Act.
Which is, the world's first really comprehensive law for AI.
Exactly. And the tension at its core is what we're looking at. I mean, how do you put up the necessary guardrails to protect people's rights without just slamming the brakes on innovation?
Right.
Because on one hand, this thing is being called a historic achievement, a model for the whole world.
But then you immediately get this counter narrative. We're seeing, a lot of alarm from European startups, from investors.
What are they saying?
They're warning that the reality of the act just means higher costs, slower development, and, well, a serious competitive drag against the U.S. and China. We're just focused on speed.
Okay, so before we get into that whole economic headache, let's just understand the law itself. The EU's approach is all based on risk, right? What are these guardrails exactly?
Yeah, and what's fascinating is the structure. It's a tiered, risk-based system. The whole idea is to create some legal certainty and, build trust.
So it's not just a blanket law for all AI.
Not at all. You have low-risk stuff like spam filters, minimal requirements there. But then you jump to the high-risk uses.
And that would be what? AI in medicine?
AI in medical devices,
Oh.
hiring, credit
Yeah.
scoring, anything touching health or finance. And for those, you have really strict obligations. We're talking data quality, human oversight, documentation.
It sounds like any AI that really touches a person's livelihood or, their physical well-being gets put in that top tier,
That's the idea. And some things, like government social scoring, are just banned outright.
which makes total sense. But how? I mean, isn't there going to be a huge fight over what gets classified as high risk?
Oh, that fight is absolutely guaranteed. But what's important to see is the EU's dual strategy here.
Yeah.
They aren't just trying to regulate.
They want to compete.
They want to be a serious global competitor. You can see it in the hundreds of billions of euros they've committed to support AI infrastructure and research right alongside this law.
But if the compliance costs are as steep as people say, will those billions even make a dent? Is it a genuine boost, or is it just damage control?
And that question gets right to the heart of the innovator's warning. Survey results we're seeing show that roughly half of European AI startups expect this act to really slow them down.
Wow, half.
Yeah. And a chunk of those are even considering relocating development or just abandoning projects entirely. The complexity and the threat of heavy fines are a real issue.
And the fear is that these complex rules hurt the smallest players the most. This big tech advantage argument keeps coming up. Why is that?
Because compliance is a fixed cost. It just is. If you're a massive company, hiring 100 people for a compliance department it's a rounding error. It barely hits your R&D budget.
But if you're a five-person startup,
If you're a 5-person startup, hiring even one lawyer just to navigate EU data audits, that could cripple you. It cripples your ability to innovate. So poorly designed rules, even with good intentions, can just raise the barrier to entry.
which just helps the incumbents, the big guys who can afford it.
That's exactly.
That's the crucial nuance, isn't it? I mean, we also have to remember, Europe was already lagging the US and China in AI investment before the act.
A very important point. And supporters would argue a human-centric framework is actually necessary for long-term sustainable innovation, especially in sensitive areas like health.
So the key is how you do it. Smart regulation. Things like regulatory sandboxes for experimentation.
Absolutely. And this whole debate, it isn't just happening in Europe. The law's global influence is huge. You have countries like South Africa with largely unregulated AI sectors looking very closely at this.
But they can't just copy and paste it.
No, they have to
Yeah.
adapt it, adapt the core principles like risk classification and transparency to their own local realities of, say, inequality and state capacity.
So the big lesson for policymakers everywhere seems clear. This act can't be a static monument. It has to be a living framework. It has to be adjusted as we get more evidence, and enforcement has to be proportionate.
And for you, as a business leader, the message is don't wait for the mandate. You should already be setting your own internal standards for responsible AI.
In the end, it sounds like the EU AI Act serves as both a lighthouse and the warning.
It is. It shows that democratic societies can act, but it also exposes just how incredibly difficult it is to balance rights, safety, and global competitiveness all at once.
That's the challenge for everyone watching this unfold.
It is. I think the necessary conversation isn't really regulation versus innovation. That's too simple. It's about how we build smart, context-aware rules that allow responsible AI to actually flourish for everyone's benefit. Getting that design right is everything.